Good morning, dear children. Hope you are all fine and safe. And today we are going to discuss about a new lesson in your supplementary reader, The Footprints Without Feet. The lesson's name is A Question of Trust. Actually, this lesson is not there for your examination syllabus, so I'll be just covering the lesson. I'll not be sharing any notes of this lesson like the third lesson. This is the fourth lesson. We'll go with the lesson now. Before starting the lesson, we'll have an overview of the narrator Victor Canning. Actually, Victor Canning was a very famous English novelist who wrote a lot of short stories also. The story which we are learning now, A Question of Trust, is one of his famous short stories. Now let's go with the lesson. A Question of Trust by Victor Canning. It is said that you must set a thief to catch a thief. But it's also said that there is honor among thieves. Which saying does this story illustrate? Let's see the story now. I'm going to read the paragraphs. Before that, there are a few questions. I'm going to read the questions. We'll find out the answers in the course of the story. Read and find out. What does Horace Danby like to collect? Why does he steal every year? We'll see the answer of these two questions in the course of the story. Now I'm going to read the text. Listen and read with me. First paragraph. Everyone thought that Horace Danby was a good, honest citizen. He was about 50 years old and unmarried, and he lived with a housekeeper who worried over his health. In fact, he was usually very well and happy except for attacks of hay fever in summer. He made locks and was successful enough at his business to have two helpers. Yes, Horace Danby was good and respectable, but not completely honest. 15 years ago, Horace served his first and only sentence in a prison library. He loved rare, expensive books, so he robbed a safe every year. Each year he planned carefully just what he would do, stole enough to last for 12 months, and secretly brought the books he loved through the agent. We're going to see the story of Horace Danby. He was a good, honest citizen for the other people who lived around him. He was about 50 years and he was unmarried. He was living with a housekeeper. The housekeeper was always worried about his health, but he was healthy and happy. Other than the only reason which made him trouble was the hay fever which comes in summer. His business was to make locks and he had two helpers also. He was a respectable person in the society, but at the same time he was not completely honest, not trustworthy. And 15 years ago, he had served his first and only sentence in a prison library. He had his first sentence in the prison library. And here, what was his passion means he loved rare but expensive books. For that, he steal a safe every year. Only once he will steal in an year, and he would make sure that the things in the safe would be suitable for him to maintain for the coming year, to buy enough books and to maintain his life well. That's what he used to say, and he used to do that. And he planned it very well, carefully, and secretly he brought the books to his home through an agent. He used to steal the books also. Next paragraph. Now, walking in the bright July sunshine, he felt sure that this year's robbery was going to be as successful as all the others. For 2 weeks, he had been studying the house at Chateau Grange, looking at its rooms, its electric wiring, its paths, and its garden. This afternoon, the two servants who remained in the Grange while the family was in London had gone to the movies. Horace saw them go, and he felt happy in spite of a little tickle of hay fever in his nose. He came out from behind the garden wall, his tools carefully packed in a bag on his back. There were about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels in the Grangate safe. If he sold them one by one, he expected to get at least 5,000, enough to make him happy for another year. There were three very interesting books coming up for sale in the autumn. Now he would get the money he wanted to buy them. Horace is planning to have a new robbery. Here he is planned it to steal a safe, and on one day he could realize something, that was the house owners were in London and the two servants who were remaining in the house, they went out for a movie. That Horace got a chance and he was really happy. Even though he had a small hay fever in his nose, he took his tools and get ready for the operation. And he knew what was there in the safe. Actually, it was full of gold, which worth about 15,000 pounds, and he was expected to sell them one by one, and was planning to buy three interesting books which are coming up for sale in the autumn season. Now he wanted to get enough money to buy those books. Let's continue the lesson. I'm going to read listen. He had seen the housekeeper hang the key to the kitchen door on a hook outside. He put on a pair of gloves, took the key and opened the door. He was always careful not to leave any fingerprints. A small dog was lying in the kitchen. It stirred, made a noise, and moved its tail in a friendly way. "All right, Sherry," Horace said as he passed. All you had to do to keep dogs quiet was to call them by their right names and show them love. The safe was in the drawing room behind a rather poor painting. Horace wondered for a moment whether he should collect pictures instead of books. But they took up too much room. In a small house, books were better. There was a great bowl of flowers on the table, and Horace felt this nose tickle. He gave a little sneeze and then put down his bag. He carefully arranged his tools. He had 4 hours before the servants returned. Horace knows it very well, how to open the house door, how to enter the house, because he noticed the servant keeping the kitchen doors locked in a hook outside. He put a gloves, and he kept it everything safe, making sure that the fingerprints are not being marked anywhere in the house. He entered slowly. Once when he entered into the kitchen, he could see the pet dog of that house, and to make it tame, he called it by its name so that the dog started waving its tail. Altogether, things were safe and fine. Now he started to do his work. He knew where the cupboard which was having the gold kept. It was kept under a painting, and Horace wondered for a moment if he could keep some paintings instead of keeping books. But in a sudden he changed that thought, because for his small house, books are better than the big paintings. He might find it very difficult to keep the paintings safe once when his house is full of the paintings. That would make troubles. He knew it very well. And the flowers which were kept on the table in the flower vase made a little trouble to him, and he started to sneeze a little bit, but somehow he managed it. He kept his bag down carefully and arranged his tools, everything, and he started his work. He had 4 hours left before the servants were coming, because they went for a movie and they'll be coming only after 4 more hours. Next paragraph. The safe was not going to be hard to open. After all, he had lived with locks and safes all his life. The burglar alarm was poorly built. He went into the hall to cut its wires. He came back and sneezed loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again. How foolish people are when they own valuable things, Horace thought. A magazine article had described this house, giving a plan of all the rooms and a picture of this room. The writer had even mentioned that the painting hid a safe. But Horace found that the flowers were hindering him in his work. He buried his face in his handkerchief. Then he heard a voice say from the doorway, "What's it, a cold or hay fever?" Before he could think, Horace said hay fever and found himself sneezing again. The voice went on, "You can cure it with a special treatment. You know, if you find out just what plants give you the disease. I think you would better see a doctor if you are serious about your work. I heard you from the top of the house just now." While Horace was busy doing the work, he was thinking because the house owner was a really foolish man. He thought the house owner gave the picture of the entire house and the particular room and the picture which was kept there and the table hiding under the shelf, hiding under the picture. Everything was clearly mentioned in a magazine. That is the reason how Horace came to know about the entire picture of the house. Now he was thinking how foolish the house owner was, and while he was continuing the work, he felt it sneezing again and again because of the flower which was kept there. In a sudden, he could hear a sound asking, "What is that? Was it a hay fever or something like that?" Then, without thinking, Horace answered, "It is a hay fever." And the sound again came down. He said, "I heard you troubling from the upstairs. If you are too busy with your work, I think." And then it continued like this. "You have a trick. If you can identify which particle, which plants are making a trouble to you, if you can identify that, you will have a good solution. But it's better you can consult a doctor." The sound continued like that. "Now, which flower do you think make him a hay fever right now?" "Yes, the same ones which are there in the bowl of flowers on the table in that house. That makes a trouble to him right now." There is another set of questions coming in the middle of the lesson. We'll see there are two questions. Who's speaking to Horace Danby? Who's the real culprit in the story? We'll see the answer of those questions in the coming parts of the story. I'm going to continue. Listen. Next paragraph. It was a quiet, kindly voice, but one with firmness in it. A woman was standing in the doorway, and Sherry was rubbing against her. She was young, quite pretty, and was dressed in red. She walked to the fireplace and straightened the ornaments there. "Down, Sherry," she said. "Anyone would think I'd been away for a month." She smiled at Horace and went on, "However, I came back just in time, though I didn't expect to meet a burglar." Horace had some hope because he seemed to be amused at meeting him. He might avoid troubles if he treated her the right way. He replied, "I didn't expect to meet one of the family." She nodded. "I see what an inconvenience it is for you to meet me." "What are you going to do?" Horace said, "My first thought was to run." "Of course you could do that, but I could telephone the police and tell them all about you. They'd get you at once." The sound came nearby, and there was a woman at the door. She talked with the pet dog, and she was a quiet, good looking young lady. And she started talking to Horace also. She introduced herself as the owner of the house, and she said she did never expect a burglar in the house. And in a sudden, Horace got it really confused, but he tried to manage himself, and he said, "I never expected to meet someone from the family." And in a sudden, she asked, "What are you planning to do?" He said, "I was planning to run away from the house." She said, "That's a good idea, but I may make a call to the police that they would come and catch you because I can give everything, all the details about you." Next paragraph. Horace said, "I would, of course, cut the telephone wires first," and then he hesitated, a smile on his face. "I would make sure that you could do nothing for some time. A few hours could be enough." She looked at him seriously. "You'd hurt me?" Horace paused and then said, "I think I was trying to frighten you when I said that. You didn't frighten me, Horace suggested. It would be nice if you would forget you ever saw me. Let me go. The voice was suddenly sharp. Why should I? You were going to rob me. If I let you go, you'll only rob someone else. Society must be protected from men like you. Horace smiled. I'm not a man who threatens society. I steal only from those who have a lot of money. I steal for a very good reason, and I hate the thoughts of prison. She laughed, and he bugged, thinking that he had persuaded her. Look, I have no right to ask you for anything, but I am desperate. Let me go, and I promise never to do this kind of thing again. I really mean it. They continued the conversation. Meanwhile, Horace tried to threaten the lady, but she was not at all afraid of the words, hearing the words of the burglar. But she said, I would get you caught some or the other way because I don't want people like you to continue in the society. If I stop you to steal from this house one or the other day, you may take it from some other house. Then Horace said, I will not steal from the poor people. I'll steal only from the rich people who are really wealthy, and I'm stealing it for a good reason only. The lady was not ready to accept anything, and she was really arrogant or adamant about her attitude. Then Horace started begging for justice or help from the lady. It's not a justice but a help, that she must not call police and must leave him at once. That was the demand of the man, and he said he promised that he would never repeat such an action anymore. Actually, is that the real house owner? Because in the beginning we have learned that the house owner and his family is in London. Do you think it is the real house owner or any other burglar who tries to overcome the Horace and his plans and to steal the entire house? What is your opinion? Let's see it in the coming paragraphs. Next paragraph. She was silent, watching him closely. Then she said, You are really afraid of going to prison, aren't you? She came over to him, shaking her head. I have always liked the wrong kind of people. She picked up a silver box from the table and took a cigarette from it. Horace, eager to please her and seeing that she might help him, took off his gloves and gave her his cigarette lighter. You let me go? He held the lighter towards her. Yes, but only if you will do something for me. Anything you say. Before we left for London, I promised my husband to take my jewels to our bank. But I left them here in the safe. I want to wear them to a party tonight. So I came down to get them. But, Horace smiled, you've forgotten the numbers to open the safe, haven't you? Yes, replied the young lady. Just leave it to me and you'll have them within an hour. But I'll have to break your safe. Don't worry about that. My husband's won't be here for a month and I'll have the safe mended by that time. Now, for leaving him safe, the lady asked help in return, and that was that she wanted to wear the ornaments for a party on that night, and the problem is that she forgot the number lock of the safe. So Horace said, it's not at all a problem, I can help you, but I have to break the safe. The lady said, it's not at all going to be a problem because my husband is going to be out for the coming 1 month and I will get enough time to repair it. It means that now the lady wanted Horace to break the safe for her and to help her to take all the jewels for her. Let's go with the last part of the lesson. I'm going to listen. And within an hour, Horace had opened the safe, given her the jewels, and gone happily away. For 2 days, he kept his promise to the kind young lady. On the morning of the third day, however, he thought of the books he wanted, and he knew he would have to look for another safe. But he never got the chance to begin his plan. By noon, a policeman had arrested him for the jewel robbery at Shotover Grande. His fingerprints, for he had opened the safe without gloves, were all over the room, and no one believed him when he said that the wife of the owner of the house had asked him to open the safe for her. The wife herself, a grey haired, sharp tongued woman of 60, said that the story was a nonsense. Horace is now the assistant librarian in the prison. He often thinks of the charming, clever young lady who was in the same profession as he was and who tricked him. He gets very angry when anyone talks about honor among thieves. Within an hour, with a great effort, Horace could break the shelf and could take the jewels and hand it over to the young lady. Now, for the coming 2 days, he was sitting quite alone at his home, keeping the promise given to the young lady. But on the third day, he started thinking about those valuable books he wanted to buy and started to plan something. But before giving a proper planning to the next project also, he got caught by the policeman for robbing the house because he has broken the safe without wearing the gloves, that his fingerprints were there all over the room. And he said to the policeman and to the court that the owner's wife has asked to break the safe, but the owner's house herself came to him. She was a lady of about 60 years, having a rough sound, and she having grey hair. The owner's wife, she came forward and said whatever he said was an utter nonsense, as she never asked anyone to break the safe. And he got really surprised or shocked after seeing the lady, because the lady who came to him was a young lady, but now the lady who came introducing that the wife of the house owner is a lady of 60 years. So he understood that he was cheated by somebody else, and now he is working as the librarian in the prison, reading and enjoying his time. Now he used to think about that lady who cheated him, who is there in his own profession but cheated him and escaped without saving him by trapping him, all those things. And whenever somebody says about the honesty among thieves, he would get very angry because one of his colleagues, one person from his same profession had cheated him very badly, that he got trapped by the police. That's all about the story. Hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you. Have a nice day.